Good evening.
Good evening. So we had submitted a couple of visuals for the display, but we also have it as a handout, if you want to talk about
And
that
I can
first.
display it for you because they put it on
Oh.
this desktop so I can display it.
Okay.
Do we want to go ahead and introduce ourselves again, just for the benefit of anyone watching?
Sure, we can do that.
Mike, you get to start today.
Mike Lastra, elementary principal, Eastside Elementary.
Heather Rose, Principal, Wikiwachi High School.
Lisa Braithwaite, Principal, Explorer K-8.
Matt Goldrick, Director of Labor Relations and Professional Standards.
Barbara Kidder, Assistant Superintendent of Business and Support Operations.
Steve Crowley, Executive Director of Support Operations.
Alexis Brown, Director of Human Resources.
Angelina Lamantia, Financial Analyst.
Joyce McIntyre, Chief Financial Officer.
Caroline Mogler, Staff Counsel.
Rachel Vassalero, Challenger K-8.
Andrea Kelleher, Parrott Middle School.
Dustin Kupchak, District AD.
Dana Blazik, J.D. Floyd Elementary.
Lisa Masario, President, HCTA.
Kim Hudson, Executive Director or Service Unit Director with FEA.
Trisha Greenwood, Treasurer, HCTA.
Casey Tobias, Suncoast Elementary.
Jim Inzes, Occupational Therapy, ESC.
Craig Odachowski, Discovery Endeavor.
Did you guys want to start tonight? And can you tell me which one you want me to project?
The one with the package.
We're going to start with the survey results. So specifically, we wanted to use the survey results to respond to the district's proposal regarding the post-school days. So if you scroll to, it's on the same document, just the second pie chart. Oh, third pie chart, sorry. Okay, so what we asked folks was about how often you typically report to work on those days, because understanding the district's idea, the idea behind the district proposal was those are things that are budgeted for, and if we turn them into non-work days, you know, maybe that provides some type of a compensation that people would find attractive. But according to what the survey is reporting, like almost 65% of the people who responded, which I know 585 responses it's about a third of the bargaining unit, maybe a little more than a third. But it's in line with what we usually get as far as survey responses when we do most surveys in our district. So that number was a little concerning because at least 50% say they report on both days. And it's out of like a necessity that there are still things that they're wrapping up. Whether it's, you know, I have to move classrooms or I have to, you know, tie up my different responsibilities before I can do sign out, check out forms. So overwhelmingly, it seemed like most people would still be reporting even if you change them to non-duty days because of the responsibilities that are involved. And then the other 13% that added to the overwhelming majority, they use AST usually for both, which completely, if we made those non-work days, then it completely devalues the AST, which some people are not feeling is super valuable because there's not a lot of opportunities to use it. So if we made those non-work days and they had done all of these things to earn AST throughout the year, then it comes to the opportunity, the biggest opportunity to use it, which is for an entire work day. Those folks would sort of lose out in that scenario. So overwhelmingly, I don't think that people were interested in the idea of making those non-work days. Anything? So as part of the survey, we also, you know, put some feelers out regarding what are some other things that you might find valuable that don't necessarily have a big cost impact to them. So that was one of the things that we wanted to discuss. I didn't put those in the survey results to display because some of them, I mean, they could be future proposals that we want to discuss in future bargaining years, or they may be things that we need a little bit more clarification. For example, one that is likely not something that doesn't have a price tag attached to it, but was a very popular option, is limit to class sizes. So overwhelmingly, over 60% of people, they got to multi-select. So over 60% of people picked that one as an attractive option. But knowing that there is a cost attached to that, right? That's not a no-cost option because in order to lower class sizes, you would need more people, right, to distribute the students to, or you would be using the procedure that's already in the contract, which is if you feel your class load is excessive in comparison to other staff or like roles, you can pursue that as, you know, ask for a review at the district level for your class load. So that mechanism already exists in the contract as far as trying to address that and possibly not have a cost at this moment. So we didn't bring forward a proposal regarding the class sizes for those reasons. We know that there's a cost attached to a class size cap. So the one that we did work on developing something for is protected time during preschool week. So I'm going to let Dana distribute those, and then we can snuff the chair over.
On camera. There we go.
So our idea was to quantify a period of hours, not specific days named in the week, but a period of hours. A minimum of 15.5 hours during preschool week will be reserved in each site's preschool schedule for individual instructional staff members to accomplish work-related tasks at their discretion in preparation for the beginning of the school year. These hours will be scheduled around the day designated to be the district-wide in-service day. So we wouldn't have people declaring that's the day I'm going to spend in my classroom and not. Good job, Dana.
This was also the second, when we did that survey, this was number 2. So we looked at surveying the people, like our people, and like we said, the class size cap, we know comes with a cost. This doesn't come with a cost. So that's why, and 60% of people, this was the number 2 picked answer.
Just for clarity on the district in-service day, if the in-service is only, because we know how it gets, like on every school staff, we have like, hey, you're in the morning, you're done by 11, but mine don't start till 12 with a different group or subject area. Are you saying that day wouldn't count as like half of that? Like if your in-service was done by 11, that time from 11:30 or 12, once we consider lunch, that wouldn't be in consideration, just for clarity.
No, that's fine.
Not that I'm against it, I'm just asking for clarity.
Yeah, we left the district in-service day as a whole by itself because there has been years where I've had a training all day. So like we understand, we know that, like that was why we wanted to clarify the district in-service day is set just for district in-service day. And then the 15.5 would come outside of it because that's when the preparation for open house happens. Most of us have open house on Thursday. So like I could see most principals wanting to use a chunk of this on Wednesday, giving those teachers that time to be ready for open house. Some of us have open house as early as 9 on Thursday. But yeah, we put the district in-service days separate because I feel like it fluctuates depending on what you're teaching and what is being offered and is available. Like this year with the new curriculum, it was a little more than before.
I think there's potential for disparity in the amount of time as well. Like if, you know, a portion of that day is recaptured for a subset of your staff, but not for all of them, then I think it complicates things more because then you're like, well, I'm going to give this department this part of this day, but then, I mean, I think master calendars or master schedules and all of that is enough of a challenge, preschool scheduling and all of that. So the idea was to try to keep that as a day that's intact to schedule around.
And just to clarify, because I think we've done it differently, what about the ESE day? Is that the same as District and Service Day now, or?
So the last few years, the ESE has been on Wednesday, which actually has been a concern for ESE teachers because they're off campus again. I will say for the most part, they then don't always go to the Tuesday one because that is doubling them up for training. So I could understand where that would be complicated there. So that would be a small subset of people that I think could just be handled on campus. Like you'll have this many hours on Tuesday when everyone else has this many hours on Wednesday. I did think about that when we were texting back and forth, but I was like, I always feel like with the kids when they're like, what if? And then, they go into this whole scenario. And that has come up before with some of our members is the fact that the ESE training is on a different day and they don't know why. They would love to see it move back to Tuesday because that's time they're off campus away from their co-teachers, which is time that they could be planning for curriculum with their co-teachers, and they're losing that time.
It almost makes it, for me, like Monday is usually like welcome back and doing all of those things. Tuesday's district and service. Wednesday is ESE training, and then I'm not seeing my co-teacher until Thursday, which is generally open house.
So basically our goal was to allow teachers to put first things first and set themselves and their students up for success for the new school year. Any other questions on that one? Okay. Sorry, you're like the runner today.
I'm gonna make Dustin do it.
A little bit.
He's athletic director, for goodness sakes. Like, show us your athleticism. Can you pass that one?
Yes.
No, I got that.
So the next item we wanted to address is a response to the advanced degree proposal. Our preference is to keep things as single item. So we also clarified some of the language in the first paragraph because it referred previously to a process with HR that if a degree was not eligible or was determined to be not eligible, that there would be some kind of a discussion or outreach that it could be discussed between HCTA and Human Resources. So we wanted to clarify in that language what that process might look like so that there's a little more clarity regarding when someone applies and is denied, or basically before they're outright denied, that there's a process. And then we address the Juris Doctor by listing it next to doctorate and including the qualifier that this is effective for this school year, should we reach agreement in this school year.
So the crossed out language at the bottom. The crossed out language at the bottom, is that something that was part of the proposal, or is that something that exists currently?
It's something that exists currently. In the- It's something that exists currently that we're looking to strike.
Okay. Because one benefit of that is that there should be some understanding, I think it provides an understanding to the bargaining member who drops that certificate, that at that point, because they didn't, it could be a year later we discover it, but then that money would be recapturable, which if we take that away, there'd be no way to determine when we'd start taking back that money that they no longer should have because the certificate is no longer held. You know what I mean?
So the district is standing on advanced degree and certification area as the specific qualifier.
Because I believe that is a qualifier under the law.
Well, I mean, we brought forward examples of other districts that had changed and pivoted to accept advanced degrees, payment for advanced degrees. So from previous discussions, we understood that that wasn't the direction the district wanted to go. So, I mean, that's the way we've proposed it, even though the other language doesn't really speak to, the other language I think is very consistent with, because it talks about broad areas. And I think those are the ones we've been most trying to address.
Okay.
Is where a broad area of certification or a specific degree related to a broad area, academic area, is valid.
And one interesting thing I learned is that there's a lot of people that aren't currently doing even like the broad degrees in many districts. Like many districts still don't do, like masters of curriculum and instruction. They won't include that. So we do that. So I guess obviously every district is different, but it is interesting. Okay, I just wanted to clarify if that was.
So you're saying the bottom part has a potential benefit, because if I drop that area of certification and I notify the district, then the district knows to change that in my payroll status.
Correct.
Rather than me continuing to accept the funds and then the district discovering it later and the district saying, hey, you owe us for the advanced degree that we paid you.
Correct.
Which is, in a lot of instances, a big disadvantage for someone to owe back $2,500, $4,500.
Right.
So, if there is, I guess we would have to figure out if we are in agreement on the top part and then decide what we want to do on the bottom.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because would it make sense at the bottom, if we kept it and we kept the part at the top, to mention that if they bring it to the district and it gets denied, that they get that appeal within 10 days? Like the part at the top. So if they had it, and if they dropped that certification area, but they still think they deserve to keep that master's pay, could they then do that within 10 days, human resources, to that section then? Yeah.
Okay. This is the response for the line item, the budget line item proposal.
Thank you.
Oh. Yeah, we can. So in addition to updating the TSIA language, just because it was pointed out to me that it's no longer called that, I didn't adjust it in the other proposal we will be bringing later, but I adjusted it in this one because the terminology is now classroom teacher and other instructional personnel salary increase allocation. A little bit more of a mouthful than TSIA, but
I would like an anagram, please.
somebody attempted to make one anagram, but I couldn't pronounce it, so I just stuck with the whole thing. So our concern about the other proposal, the proposal that we received at the last session, is having a specific deadline of October 1st that something has to be signed and ratified by both parties. So I think our intent is to get those discussions started earlier so that we still could meet the deadline of October 1st. We still had every opportunity to have something resolved by a specific date if we start earlier. So that was what we pointed out last time, is that we briefly started discussing, funding and potential for increases on August 18th. And that was literally the first date we could coordinate schedule-wise. So hopefully, if we could commit to coming back to the table sooner, I think the only question mark that, none of us has the answer for at the moment is, when will the state budget be ready? When will you know what will be in that funding source for the district? So we understand that that was a complication in getting final numbers. The budget was passed late. They needed a special session to get it done at the state level. A lot of those factors worked against us this year for coming back to the table sooner. But hopefully, with an earlier legislative session, maybe we cross our fingers and we have some preparation for budgeting that falls along that line a little bit sooner. I think the only thing that we are still a little bit questioning is, how do we have those discussions when all we know is the 809,000, right? So, productive discussions, we would need all of the information, right? Both sides need all the information to consider. But I do think it's, this proposal signifies a good faith effort on behalf of the district to put something intentionally into the budget as a line item, and as well as, our intention to start productive discussions sooner so that hopefully we do meet the deadline that you're seeking. Okay. All right, the next visual is what's next. The 5-year review chart. If you could pull that up, please. So I noted on the slide there where the information comes from, but it's from the DOE charts from 2024-25 and 2020-21. That same 5-year span that we discussed last time regarding instructional staff. So instructional staff salaries during that time did grow because we had a lot of productive work accomplished in these sessions. And so I definitely think, we don't want to discount that. We don't want to minimize that. We're glad that we made the progress that we did. But I think what teachers are facing and what instructional staff are facing in this district is that we're a results-oriented culture. So results and how we achieve them and how we get them there and the data involved is a lot of what we spend time talking about. And so in our estimation, I think to put into context the amount of workload issues that we're experiencing, I think these numbers tell a story. So in the same period of time when student enrollment grew 1.6% over those 5 years, instructional staff declined by 3.8%. So even in the best comparison, which when I looked at the 10-year data, they were neck and neck. So instructional staff was 6% growth, and student enrollment growth was between 6 and 7%. That was a consistent. We know we've been dealing with a teacher shortage. That's not in our control. It's not in your control. The teacher shortage has impacted this greatly. But those numbers are the numbers reported to DOE as far as the number of instructional positions, but we haven't had over 1,700 teachers, instructional staff employed here in a few years. So our bargaining unit number, because we count everybody now, have to monitor that, our bargaining unit number has been consistently 1,650 on average over the last few years. So when you take into account the number that's being reported, which is an accurate number of positions, right? Position count, if I understand that number correctly, that's a position count.
I don't know where this came from. I'm not sure where exactly this came from because the data would have shown filled positions. So I guess I would just have to go and find what chart this came from. But 1733 is the allocated, so that's correct. We're currently allocated, and I checked this morning, we were at 1649 filled, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we look at that number, I mean, that's already, that minus 3.8% is actually greater with number of bodies in positions.
We can probably assume that for the, thank you. We can probably assume that also for the support staff and admin, that those would be allocated. And there's also something out for the admin, because we don't have more than 93 administrators in the district. So our theory is maybe it's the job codes, because the state will consider some positions that we have in PTS as administrative, and so they get counted in the wrong category. So I think those numbers in the administration, and because the number of administrators is small, that throws the percentage way off in terms of what you're looking at there.
Yeah, we have 93 administrator allocated and 91 filled. Professional technical is not a part of the administrative category. It's nowhere near that salary construct. It's actually more likened to a starting year teacher for most managers and even coordinators. Even at the supervisory level, if we start looking at the average salary for instructional staff members that are on an annual or PS contract, they're right there neck and neck. And you may notice you've had previous bargaining unit members that have transitioned over to the PTS salary schedule and oftentimes see a pay cut. They might be making more annually, but that's because their calendar has increased to the 249 calendar. The job codes are a 5-digit number assigned to the title, and the DOE and we as a district don't always align directly. So a more realistic version of that would be the breakdown of admin, PTS, non-instructional, confidential, and instructional. Those are the 5 units that we have in the district.
And we have a chart. When you're done with this, we can show you that chart.
Okay. I mean, I'm going by what's reported to DOE on their website. And so what's reported to them, it says all active full-time staff included with primary job code EEO line from payroll. So, I mean, that's what's being reported. It looks like a pretty big disparity. And when you look at the difference between if officials, administrators, and managers dash instructional, that category alone is a plus 11 over that 5-year time frame. So in the instructional, on the DOE listing, I can make copies of these
Okay.
for you as well. It's broken out by officials, administrators, and managers, instructional in one column, officials, administrators, and managers, non-instructional, and then officials, administrators, managers, total, right?
And those managers oftentimes come from our PTS salary. That's the
Yeah,
discrepancy because the job code aligns with state reporting for that as the full-time staff. That's from Survey 2, right? That's what that chart is?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Final survey 2.
Yep. So sometimes the titles don't align 100%. And also the student enrollment, is that brick and mortar or is that our overall student enrollment? Because that's something we want to be mindful of. I pulled where we were at September of this year versus I think January 9th, and we were down 172.
But what was the overall total? I mean, we're not.
We're under 22 for brick
Yeah,
and
we're
mortar.
under
I'm sorry, we're under 23. It's 22 and change. I can give you the exact number
Well,
for brick and mortar.
I mean, that's this year, though. You're saying, right? Yeah. I mean, I'm just using the same range of years like we did with the teacher salary comparison.
That's not what we're talking about, though. The actual number of 23,000 is including some non-brick and mortar students. In other words, students that get scholarships and things like that, correct?
That was my question. Where does that number come from?
It comes from the same reporting.
So I'm wondering if it might include the other categories because we didn't hit over 23.7 for brick and mortar. So it might include total enrollment, which would make sense. That's what's reported to the DOE. So sometimes it's hard to look at data points when it's not apples to apples or even just the given day, because even enrollment, filled positions versus allocated positions, it changes from day to day. I see where the chart is trying to correlate information, but it might be skewed with the student enrollment and the differentiation in title assignment versus job codes. That's my only.
Yeah.
So if that discrepancy exists with professional tech, where are professional technical housed? Where are their primary work location?
They're everywhere.
Some are in food and nutrition, some are in TIS, some are at school sites, transportation. They're all over the district.
There's probably school sites, there's not as many.
There are some itinerant that service multiple school sites, but I don't know, other than food and nutrition, that there would be actual assigned PTS at a school.
Yeah.
Understood. So I think the thing that jumped out to me, though, I mean, I understand what you're saying, that there's possible variability, but instructional staff is the only one that's in the negative. So even if the percentages are a little bit this way, a little bit that way, instructional staff, the percentage change in instructional staff is the only one that's in the negative.
But you're also comparing 2021 to 24, 25, and I'm really shocked by that 1,800 number.
Yeah,
That doesn't make, that 1,800 number makes a big difference in that percentage. And where did that 1,800 come from? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Do we think, it came from the DOE website
Yeah.
as what's been reported from
Can
Hernando
you
County?
send me what that one reported was? I tried to follow
Sure.
this link and there was like an error on there. I have that, but I only have it for administrative. And then when I looked at instructional, I don't think I could go back that far. Or I can probably get with TIS also just to see how it was skewed like that.
Yeah, you had to go into the archive to get to the 2020, 2021.
What's that?
I don't know.
Sorry, Alexis, just a question. You said 91 out of 93 admin positions are filled. Is that admin like our principals and
It's
APs?
district and school-based admin is 93 total. Anyone with an A1E pay code, that's true admin.
Thank you.
I see of the asterisks for the 1733, there's also an asterisk on 2021. Do you know why there's an asterisk on 2021?
No. That might have been from the source. Apologies. I think it was in the original spreadsheet, they were noting that that was a year that was impacted by the pandemic.
I'm also
Yeah.
wondering if that was still part of the hold harmless when we switched from terms to Skyward. There were a couple of years of initial reporting. I'd have to look into that.
Okay. Okay.
Ms. Mazzario, based off your understanding of the report you're looking at, is the 1623 from 22-23 expected that that's a real numbers, not included vacancies? Because that says the past 2 years for the other ones include vacancies. So is it meant to be that 1623 is not including vacancies?
That would be a question for how it got reported to the
Okay.
district.
Thank you.
I think the practice is to report allocations, right?
I think the practice
that-
report live people. That's what's weird about it.
I haven't seen a number that matches live people in the few years that I've been looking at this, with the exception of possibly 22-23, looks like it's more in line with
The
actual people.
You know, one thing about instructional is we also have to account for those kids. So therefore, we're counting all those subs. So maybe we are counting allocations in that case.
Like our ATS teachers, because they're technically, they're an allocation, that's
they're
a long-term
counting-
sub, technically.
If they're counting allocations, I could see that, but if you look at the top of the reporting for Survey 2, it literally says per payroll, which is my only concern because it should be only pulling in those job codes. I'll have to clarify, honestly, the best person would be Sue Darmanin.
Yeah.
And I can clarify with her what exactly is reported and when were the hold harmless years, because that will play into it as we were transitioning out of terms and into Skyward. That might have been part of it.
So as I was saying, I think the primary purpose for showing this is the workload concern, right? How much of the work is still being spread only over 1,650 people? So if it were, right now we have about 80-something vacancies, I believe, but half of those being filled with a long-term sub situation. That's newer, right? And this year we have more that are filling those positions. Rewind 2 years ago when we first started, there were only 10 or 11 that we were trying those out, and we were still carrying upwards of 60 vacancies for a period of 2 or 3 years, district-wide. So that coincides with some of the salary improvements we were able to achieve during those years as well. But if I go back to the point about, we're in this climate where everything's a results-oriented culture. So we don't judge teacher evaluations based on how you did over the last 4 or 5 years. Everything that you do has to be judged and has to be presented and has to be on point this year. So there is, while I can appreciate the historical perspective, there is and there should be expectation that people have coming into a new year that their salary can be improved. So that's the majority of the message that we're getting from our people. Clearly, dissatisfaction with the fact that at the state level they cut our allocation for the sorry, I have to read it again because TSIA is all that comes to my mind. Classroom teacher and other instructional personnel salary increase allocation. It was cut in half for this year. That's very disappointing. That's not showing that there's a lot of value being placed in raising teacher salaries and helping districts raise teacher salaries, right? Because that investment at $1.6 million gets us a lot farther down the road, gets us somewhere, right? For the district to then add to or contribute to. So that understanding, I think, has to be very clear from, this negotiation cycle, right? 50% of those funds were not given to the district to even address raises. So the raises that we're talking about on the table are coming from that pot, and it doesn't stretch very far. That pot is still only stretching $470 per person. So I think it's important to highlight that as part of these discussions, because if the district had planned on those funds in previous years, right, we've always invested and reinvested those straight into teachers' raises. And if we planned on that for this year, boy, were you left completely disappointed when that's cut by 50%. So our goal and our challenge is still the same, though. I mean, household budgets are not making sense for people. The cost of living here is not as affordable as it was 5 years ago. Not at all, right? Rent is higher, groceries are higher, insurance is higher, and all of those factors are affecting our people. So we are still, I mean, to point out the survey result, we are still at the point where 85% of people are saying they're not satisfied with a $470 raise and $700 as a bonus.
One thing I just want to point out is if you ask anyone if they're satisfied with certain things, the answer is going to be no, because most of us can be unsatisfied by any prospective gift, bonus, what have you, right? So my question is, we keep coming back, we keep talking. We have those, just a minute, classroom teacher and other instructional personnel salary increase allocation. We really only have it for one purpose, and that's to we want to put that money in teachers' pockets. So I wish the survey question had been, I know you're dissatisfied, but would we like to put $1,170 in your pocket now and then keep going back and making agreement to review things throughout the year so that when more money is available, we can negotiate it.
But we had there's been no discussion about if and when more money available.
I don't disagree, but
I mean,
it is not because we don't want that. I mean, you made the great point, just barely, about how the states cut that in half, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to read that again. So the point is, I would ask you to consider, and we could even support you in this, of asking teachers, no, we're not satisfied with this, but should we take it and then keep talking and look at review points throughout the year? And, like we're trying to do, plan better for next year with these new realities very, very clear to all of us.
I think people might be more amenable to that sort of conversation, or they might respond more favorably if it were actually $1,100. But because it's being proposed as a bonus, it's not. So, that was some of the feedback was, well, I mean, if the budget picture is really as bad as it is, maybe let's do as much as we can and get it as a raise, or let's do as much as we can, which is why we kept going back to that salary supplement idea, because even though it's a one-time thing and it's not a raise situation, because the district expressed concern about taking on more recurring expenditure given enrollment situation and funding situation, right? Not taking on more of an year-over-year cost. So that's why we pivoted and kept proposing something that was, a one-time kind of a stopgap for all the costs that have gone up. And it also shows a little bit for people who, have their family on our insurance, because those people went backwards. They are backwards right now as of January. They are paying more for insurance and they didn't get any increase. And even the $470 increase may not have fully covered what things went up for them. So that's insurance, like that's still here as part of your benefits. It's not even considering what their other expenses and how those have increased. So, just so you're aware, the question was, should we accept the district's offer as is? It wasn't, last time, we
I
did ask,
understand. I
we asked
understand
the
it was
question, are you
modified
satisfied?
Are you satisfied? You're absolutely right.
Yeah, this
But-
time we asked, should we accept the offer as is?
But I would still pursue that extra nuance because the money has been offered and is there.
Mhm.
And it could put money in people's pockets to pay for groceries. And the goal, I mean, part of the thing about the beyond the budget line item gesture, there's no talk about that being a bonus. That's going to be, that is proposed as a salary improvement to the base salary. So we recognize, we recognize
For
that.
next year.
Yeah.
For next year. So, I mean, we do have another proposal to pass
Sounds good.
regarding the salary improvements. This is the one that I still need to correct. Should we reach agreement, I still need to take out the TSIA on it because it was already prepared before we were advised to change the language. But I also think the language is really important for the one that's impacting next year because who knows if it will be there and who knows what it will be called. But it certainly won't be called TSIA, probably. I suppose that would be the additional benefit to discussing things early because of the election year. This current plan is something Governor DeSantis put in place, so. So just to clarify, it is asking for an increase from what the district had set aside in its proposal at 1.16 million. The cost of ours would be 2.535 million to cover the 22.88% for fringes on a retention supplement payment of $1,250. Yes, and we adjusted the total amount, and we adjusted the retention supplement payment, as well as the timeframe, because previously we had it semester by semester.
Yep.
And now that we're in second semester.
Yep. Thank you for your clarification.
I would just say, one of the things that our members are asking about is related to the previously, the carry forward with the millage. Because some of those things are more than a year old, in some cases, money that has been set aside for a specific purpose and then also allocated in the next year. Because when you look at that chart of what those expenditures are reserved for, some of them are double and triple lined. So they're listed as, another allotment of funds for that purpose, and we didn't spend the first one, or we only spent a portion of the first one. So I do think that, our goal is to make sure that all those questions are being asked regarding what do we need those, what are we reserving those funds for? And should we continue reserving those funds in those places? Because again, I think an argument can be made that continuation of programs, having a certified classroom teacher in every classroom where we have one right now is a good investment in continuation of programs. So is there a possibility that without taking away from student programs or something that is benefiting students, but something that is potentially an expired intent, like something we intended to spend it on 2 years ago and it didn't get spent, can there be some reconsideration of some of that to say it does free up a little bit more to do something now?
I know that one thing that we stated last time was the idea that we're trying to keep the buckets in the buckets that they belong in. But I'll let Joyce or Angelina speak to anything procedural on that if they have anything to add.
Typically, if there was unfilled positions at the end of the year, in whatever bucket it is, that position would roll forward, that budget for that position would roll forward till the next fiscal year. It would really be at the superintendent's discretion and the school board, to make that determination. But in the past, it has carried forward and within the same buckets, within the same line items.
Thank you. I appreciate you explaining that because you explained it a little bit better than I could, but ultimately, yeah, that's what we had discussed is that, that's the big challenge, right? Is we're not questioning whether or not the person doing the budgeting is doing what she's supposed to do. She is. We're questioning the priorities that are behind it, right? We're questioning, it is a question about prioritizing and making people feel like they're valued here. That's what it is.
May I clarify that, though, just to make sure? So for an example, if there's 5 positions available in one of the buckets, you're asking for the district to basically reevaluate if those positions haven't been filled continuously, that those positions be looked at for something different, basically. Am I understanding correctly?
Yes, and specific, we're asking, this is not a recurring, because the ask is a one-time expenditure. So we're not asking that those positions never be considered again to be filled, because there was a good reason to have those positions in place or to intend to fill all of those positions. But if at this point we've gone over a year or 2 without securing people to fill those positions, then maybe for this specific carry forward, for this specific ask, that could be reprioritized. And it doesn't mean that when the millage bucket fills up 3 more times, and hopefully again in the future, if we seek another renewal, it doesn't mean that those priorities cannot be restored. It just means that the carry forward could be spent on something different, because we can't go back 2 years and fill those positions and spend that money. We could spend that money in this year, but the millage for that, the bucket for that millage has also refilled in this year. So that's why we looked at it a little bit differently to say if it's a carry forward and it covers something that were a vacancy, then we're not rewinding time and going back to fill that position to spend the money. Yeah, that would be a great example of the win-win right there. That would be it.
The one proposal we had, I think I'll reserve because it kind of dovetails into something you already countered. So it might be an appropriate time for a caucus. And I have
Okay.
reserved the Ken Austin room again for you, so it is there for your team.
Thank you.
Yep.
So just to clarify, so for the video feed, there will be something that says that, the parties will return or something like
Yes,
that?
yes.
Not that it just goes static and
No,
people
no.
think the meeting is over. Okay,
It makes some reference to that we're both meeting or something.
okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Okay, thank you, guys. We want to start with a proposal you've seen before, but there's been some changes to it based on some discussion we had last time, based on some discussion you brought up today. So we're going to look at the classroom teacher and other instructional personnel salary increase in the advanced degree proposal. It is a mouthful. You know when it goes on 2 lines that you're in trouble. So you'll see that it has the 470 we've been talking about. We did add to make sure that we include performance pay, which we kind of both recognized last time that we had not included. We're suggesting the usual 100 and then 50 for effective. And we also took the time while we were meeting to add in the appeal language you suggested for the advanced degree. So you'll notice on the back, there's that appeal language that you guys just suggested. And then we also moved the certified school counselors down under the mental health support to make sure that was accurate to where we put it last year.
I don't think that one's a change. That's what the current contract language says.
It's not a change, but on the placement salary schedule that gets posted online, that's how it appears one right after the other, because it is a part of establishing what their base salary would be. So I just wanted you all to acknowledge that we're going to go ahead and add that to the placement salary schedule that appears online, because right now it still has them in the other spots from last year.
This is actually listed under differentiated pay instead of.
But it's also always been included on the instructional placement salary schedule, because that's how staff actually place new hires. So we just want to make sure everything matches. It's not new language, but I just put it in blue so that if you looked at the salary schedule that's on there right now, it doesn't have that blue spot, but it should.
Are we moving it then out of
No.
the differentiated pay?
No, just like the advanced degree is in its own, and then the placement salary schedule, I think, is like Appendix E or something. It's no different than that, but it's easier to have it in one place online. Like we have our non-instructional salary matrix, we have our placement instructional salary schedule. So when you have that all in one spot, it just makes it easier for folks that are coming on board to find the information readily available, and so that when we're placing people, it's readily available. That's all, but it's not, you're correct, it's not new language.
Okay.
Any questions about any of that?
Just wondering what the rationale is for having Juris Doctor listed separately, rather than how we just proposed it, listing it next to doctorate.
Right, that's the only reason why, is because that's the only one that would have been effective this year. The other ones were established prior. Those are rates that are already in effect. So we just want to make sure that it's acknowledged that that's the one that we're adding.
So in the future, it might move,
We could slide it back there.
but just to note that that's the one that's starting this year. Okay.
In fact, we can switch that right now if you want to go ahead and sign this. Okay. Any other questions?
I can obviously compare them, but for the sake of time, is there anything else in what we proposed as far as the language for the appeals process that has been changed? Or okay.
We kept the language in.
I'm just trying to find.
We did
where
not
they have
include
it.
the strikeout, so we took the strikeout out at the bottom. You know what I mean? The thing I asked about.
Okay. I guess I'm just having trouble envisioning, because these are from different places in the contract, right? So I'm having trouble envisioning, yeah, advanced degree is in a different, this advanced degree language I thought was in a different place than experience, credit, critical shortage.
It is. It's all in its separate area. This is what will be posted online as your instructional placement salary schedule. They've always been combined into that one document, like historically, before my time. That's the way they've been posted online.
I think, yeah, they're posted online in a certain way because, you know, when people are hired, they want to be able to see that. But I guess my question is, you know, when we negotiate and talk about proposals here, we are oftentimes making changes to things that exist in the contract. So being that it's presented in this format, which is not how it's presented in the contract, just is a different, I don't know. It's,
And on all the TAs from previous years, the TSIA has always been accompanied by the placement salary schedule, and that's a separate appendix, and that would affect a separate area. They've always been grouped together. Anything that's going to affect a placement salary has been grouped together.
I'm going to go on to the next thing, if that's okay. So I also, it's very familiar, the $700 bonus, but we did add the line that the parties agree should the district's budgetary status improve during the 25-26 school year, that we return to the table to negotiate additional improvements in employee compensation. So we put it before you again for your consideration with that line added. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to respond to the MOU on the budget line item. We're maintaining the desire to have the October 1st deadline included, because we really do believe that because the state creates that pot of money currently and creates that deadline, that we really want to see, and you know, if the budgetary picture is very clear, we can get that all done by October. And we're very interested in meeting in April or May to discuss talking about next year. But we want, part of the reason for that proposal, in addition to showing good faith, is to also meet that requirement and have that process. I think that every year we give a step to another bargaining unit that we work with, and we come back and we talk about additional compensation. There's a lot of times, in fact, with the other unit that we've even come back and brought them back to discuss additional compensation. Because I think that we've always tried to be fair, because we're dealing with two different units. We're dealing with people that aren't represented, and we're always thinking as a district, how do we compensate all of our employees? And I think that generally we work to first figure out compensation with the units we negotiate with, and then usually the others are left till last. But that's always part of our consideration. So that's one reason why we'd like to keep that same language as long as this deadline is imposed, and as long as it may take a couple different rounds to get the compensation that all our employees deserve throughout the year. So I guess our counter technically is our original offer.
I think the concern that we have is we were told different things at different consecutive sessions. So, I mean, if we're saying, okay, well, we're not going to pull the rug out from under a proposal we put on the table, like, it's just, that's not what we were told. We're going based on past experience. So the conversations started with TSIA, and then we can come back and talk about more. And then the next time it was like TSIA is really all we have to offer, and it's going to be divided out, and 470 is where we're at, and that's it. And then we came back, and it was TSIA at 470 plus 600 as a bonus. So that part has been, it's been a moving target. So for us to say, okay, we will agree to have something agreed to by October 1st, we have no basis for signing away the ability to continue to negotiate past October 1st, because it was a choice to have that strategy. It was a choice to say 470 is all we're going to be able to do. And then to come back the next session and, you know, say, okay, we were able to secure some more funds to do this. But that strategy is why we're in this situation right now, for us to say we can't trust that there's that idea that we'll come back and talk about more. That wasn't the experience of this team this session. Maybe future teams will feel differently, but we definitely feel like, you know, we came and had two different scenarios presented. One was sign this now, and we promised to come back and talk about more. And then the next time it was sign this now because there is no more, and we want to get this money distributed. That's a very different picture. So I think that's what we're still responding to, is like, we don't trust that there is genuine intent to come back and discuss more.
I just don't know if I completely agree with your characterization of those things. And I think that's one reason we're recording now, so that we have a document that we can all look back on and view. Because I don't know when this team has never not come back to the table. We've always had an open book. We always have many bargaining sessions. So if I portrayed that, and that's the sense you get, then I apologize. But I've never led, and you and I have both been doing this for many years. And I don't think we've ever had a team that said we won't come back to the table and talk about it if there's something else there to be discussed. So I have a hard time fully understanding this level of distrust that you're putting in how you're describing our meetings. You know what I mean?
I mean, I realize we don't have a recording, but we have minutes that our team has captured from all of those sessions. So it's not a mischaracterization. It is something that, I mean, galvanized our members and instructional staff in this district to feel like, you know, we're still at the table trying to discuss these same things. And even though we've provided or asked that other things be considered or other possibilities be considered as far as funds, I mean, now we're at the point where we probably have reached a point of impasse, because we inevitably, like, we have the direction from the unit to say, don't take the $470 and $700 as a bonus. If the district reconsidered offering something as a bonus, to offering more recurring compensation, which I know that was part of why there was a pivot to something that's not recurring, because that was cited, we were listening, that was cited as a concern. We can't take on more recurring expenditures. So I don't think we've had more communication out with folks in the work sites and more direction being given back to us in this process in any other year except for this one. And overwhelmingly, that's what they're telling us. They don't think that that is acceptable for what they're willing to settle for.
Do you want to put your mic?
I just remember, and I appreciated the fact that you recognized some of the proposals that we had come up with were creative, because we understand and are trying to come to some kind of mutual agreement. And again, we were trying to be creative in some of our proposals to find a win-win solution for everyone.
I have one more response to one of your proposals. So with the preschool week, we're looking at this very closely. We spent a lot of time talking about it. One of the reasons we have 3 principals on teams from 3 different levels is just for this reason. And so we do want to get a little bit more surveying of the various schools. And so we do hope to have a counter to this in the very near future. Or, happy days, we agree or something.
Okay. So are we, even if we are at impasse, we still can continue negotiating. So are we
Just to clarify,
continuing
because
to
we're,
schedule
fortunately,
sessions or?
yes, my plan was to schedule hopefully like something in a couple weeks if that works for you.
Okay.
But just to clarify, my understanding is for impasse to happen, one of us would write a letter to PERC for that to really kick it off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's correct.
So calendar time? Oh.
I was just going to say, the 2 weeks from now is the short week. So I don't know if that's the one you were looking at. Hmm? Oh,
The 16th is a holiday. Yes. The 18th looks real good. I don't know if the 18th works for anyone else. No.
that evening Challenger is having family workshops.
Okay.
So I have a parent conflict.
Do we want to look at? I could do the 17th. No? Okay.
It's our worksite leader meeting date.
Okay. So I guess, are we looking at the next week, maybe?
I mean, if Monday and Tuesday are the only days that, or Wednesday are the only days we're considering,
I mean, like, we
what about
could,
the 25th?
One of the 19th too. Are we no Thursdays?
the 25th is a Monday? No, Wednesday?
Thursday the 19th. Anyone have Thursday the 19th?
Are you saying the 19th? No, okay. So 25th? No one's saying no, let's hurry up and put it down.
25th.
$5:15.
Okay, 25th at 5:15. Thank you.
Has there been a definitive decision that a letter is getting written to PERC, or is it still?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
So I guess the plan is that it's sent digitally, or my understanding is it can be sent digitally, so I'll make sure that,
There's a way to, if you have the whatever, yeah, you can
Okay.
do that.
okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you. Just to be 100% clear, any other business for the good of the group, are we good?
No, I think she's just showing me that section of the contract and how it looks exactly like
Okay,
that's what we're looking at.
Yeah.
thank you.